Today we found ourselves back at one of my favorite places in Port Elizabeth, LA Sport. It's a place we're very, very familiar with. We've been here many times as we've added accessories to this vehicle, but today is going to be a big one. Today is pretty important. As you know, I had a wish list earlier this year of stuff I wanted to do. One of those was to get my rims down to 17 inches. We've done that. We've put some general grabbers on, which seem to be working really well. We've done the whole canopy camper thing, but something that showed up that I wasn't quite expecting was the need for better brakes. We went on that shakedown trip, and on some of those long mountain passes I could feel the brakes were working quite hard. This is what we are fitting today. We've got an air spring kit from Firestone. Obviously this is going to allow us to adjust the ride quality based on how much weight we have in the vehicle. But what's really cool is that we've actually got a control unit that's going to sit in the front, and we're going to be able to adjust it as we go, which is amazing. Like that's a game changer. And then on this side, all the big red boxes. This is one of the brands that South Africans can be really proud of, Powerbrake. We're going to be fitting a big brake kit from Powerbrake, which is going to dramatically improve our braking performance, which I'll be honest is needed. That vehicle is very heavy now, and with that extra weight there's a lot more strain on the brakes, particularly considering that the Hilux only has disc brakes in the front. It's got drum brakes at the back, which, you know, don't work as well as discs. So these discs are going to make a big difference. But we'll go through all the details as we go along. For now, let's let the guys start their work getting everything fitted, and we'll take it from there.
Here's our first look at the factory brakes that will be coming off. Nothing wrong with them whatsoever, but with the extra weight that we're carrying on this vehicle, the upgraded brakes will be well worth it. I'm sure you're wondering what actually makes the power brakes more capable, and there's no better way to explain it than to physically show you the difference.
So what we have in front of us here are the factory calipers and pads and discs, and the Powerbrake Big Brake Kit calipers, massive discs and pads over here. And I'm just going to take a moment to discuss what the differences are and why you would consider upgrading. I suppose the first question is, are the factory brakes not good enough? And the answer is the factory brakes are fine, particularly if you're not going to be carrying a heavy load all the time. However, when you start doing what I'm doing, putting slightly bigger tires on, which have more sort of rolling mass and put more torque on the brakes because of their size, and when you start loading up your vehicle, it puts a lot of unnecessary pressure and force on the brake. So your pads are going to start wearing down quicker. Your brake fluid is going to start heating up, so you're going to get a brake fade. There's a lot of things that start becoming not just inconvenient but potentially dangerous when you going down long mountain passes and your brakes are working really hard, or if you're overlanding in countries where the animals might be jumping across the road, you need to slam on the brakes. Extra performance becomes a bit more important. So what then are the differences? Well, the first thing is the sheer size. You can see straight away that these calipers are much bigger than the factory ones. Funnily enough, they're actually lighter because they're made of aluminium, but they're bigger. And bigger just means that they can handle more forces. They allow for bigger brake pads to be inserted, which obviously means a bigger surface area. And then with the bigger discs, which are not only bigger in surface area here, but also thicker, what you get is that heat being able to be dissipated a little bit better. So size is one big thing. The second is material sciences. So Powerbrake has put a lot of research into finding the optimal material compounds for the brake pads, the discs, and strengthening up everything. So what you have are materials like aluminium, which can handle the same forces, if not more, because of this larger construction than the steel components. And then obviously just, bigger, thicker discs as well, which, as we said, can dissipate the heat a bit better. We've also got some colors on here. These basically are there to show you temperatures. So if you have your discs heating up to a certain point, this will give you an indication of the heat of your discs. We've got the same thing on the calipers here, where you can actually see the temperatures that they're heating up to, which is really, really cool. I don't think I'm going to be pushing them that hard, but it's there if you need it. And then the last thing is just design. I think I read somewhere that like 25% of the vehicles in the Dakar Rally were running power brakes, which is crazy. So there's a lot of research and development going into making performance brakes that can do pretty amazing things. So if you look here, you've got six pistons in the Big Brake Kit instead of the 4 in the factory kit. So again, that makes a difference. And then they actually include a steel braided brake line as well. And that basically just means that it's going to hold the pressure of the brake fluid a little bit better, and you're not going to feel that sort of squishy brake pedal as much. It's going to be a little bit more sharp and easy to control. But yeah, all those things added up mean we're going to get really good brake performance, and I can tell you I'm really excited to not just see this lovely red caliper through my wheel there, but also feel the difference. My trip's in a few days, so it won't be long until we get to test it.
The new calipers and discs get bolted on, and with the braided brake lines fitted, the whole system can be bled. While the brakes were being worked on, we took a look at my shocks, which had been through quite a lot over the years and were nearing the end of their lifespan, and we made the decision that it was time to retire them. They've served me really well and done everything that's ever been asked of them, but it's time to try something new, and this time round we've got something blue in mind.
Formula 4x4 product is Australian. It's part of the Super Pro Zeta group. It's a magic product. The guys have been in the industry for years. It's the best warranty on the market. It's a 5-year unlimited warranty on the shock absorbers, on the suspension. And Formula, the whole mindset, their DNA, what they focus on is comfort and performance. Because it's easy to get performance and lose comfort.
Yeah.
Where Formula, the design is get your vehicle to be as comfortable as possible, handle the way you want it to handle. And the interesting thing about them is that it's the only suspension where the bushes are supplied by Super Pro. And Super Pro have got a lifetime guarantee on the bushes.
Nice.
Where none of your other brands, which are all good brands, it's a wearing part. You pay for your bushes. Where your bushes are guaranteed. So it just gives you that extra peace of mind, and you've got an amazing product in
Awesome.
Formula 4x4.
Well, this is what remains of my previous bushings. I did not realize it was so bad, but it's basically metal on metal contact, not good. So the timing was right. I could have just changed my bushings, but I think it makes sense to do the full shock upgrade now, because it's not going to be that long until they're kind of at the end of their lifespan anyway. Yeah, now's a good time to try them, going over there to Botswana and driving on some pretty rough sandy roads.
With the shocks and brakes all fitted, we can put the front wheels back on, and damn, that looks classy. We were far from finished, however, and the most challenging and time-consuming installation was still to come. The air springs themselves are not too tricky to fit, but it's the control system with all the hoses and cables that was going to take a bit of time.
Now, air and spring ratings is a conversation we have every day. In a lot of circumstances, just upgrading the spring is the right answer. That's especially if the weight is constant. If you know that weight is going to stay in the vehicle, go for the springs. But air springs, they just hit the sweet spot when, like you say, sometimes you're not heavily loaded, other times you are heavily loaded, because they just compensate for all those scenarios. So you can inflate them. They give you up to 750 kilos additional weight carrying capacity, which is quite a bit. And you can either just connect them up with the valves, like you just mentioned. That's the more common way, and then you can go really next level like we did with you. And we connect it with the compressor, with an onboard compressor. So you can literally, while you're driving, sort out, lift the back, drop it when needed when the load is out, and just fine tune your ride. That's a very, very convenient thing. Even in off-road conditions now, you can actually inflate the one side to compensate for the camber, deflate.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's not something you're going to do every day, but you've got that option.
Yeah.
When in scary situations. But yeah, air suspension is a great product. It's Firestone Air Spring Supply company that we used on your vehicle. They make the best products in the industry. Great company to deal with, great product to fit, and I'm glad we could put it on your vehicle.
Yeah, it's nice to have with your DAG compressor in there as well, which just automatically kicks in when when it senses that air is being used. That's really helpful. It means I don't have to open the engine bay all the time and switch things on and off, and that's really cool.
The pressure switches, it's all the small details that make life so much easier and convenient.
100%.
One decision that still had to be made was where to put the control unit, and I hadn't really thought about this yet, so I asked for George's advice.
Because this is a nice way of totally hiding it out of the way. If we use just a part of this, and we mount it in there basically for you, then we can hide all the cables, just make a nice little plate there so nothing bothers, and it's neat and out of the way. Otherwise we can play around with mounting it here. We can even go here, but then I'll have to just cut that panel to get the pipes out, and we can mount it in there for you. So I'll just cut that neatly and put it flush in the back there for you if you want it visible.
I think maybe inside here.
Yeah. Then it's out of the way. You won't lose too much space. You're going to lose a third.
Basically for this, I just want to, if I have to plug in something here,
you
have
still
that available. But this is just cables and stuff I put in here, so it's not a big deal if I lose a bit of space. So yeah.
So what they've done here is they've fitted the control switches and pressure gauge in my center console, so it's going to be right there, easily accessible. We can, if we get to a certain type of road and we feel like we need the suspension to be a little bit harder or softer, we can adjust it. They have to run obviously electrical cables up to here, and then also have to run these air hoses all the way through the vehicle. So it's a lot of work. It's a little bit daunting to hear the drilling through my vehicle in the middle there, but I'm pretty confident that they're going to do a good job with this installation. So you may remember from our previous shakedown trip series, we fitted a 72 litre per minute DAG compressor, which sits here in the engine bay. What this allows us to do is they've now put a little 1 gallon, so it's like a 3.8 litre air tank, and that air tank constantly stays topped up with air. So when we want to adjust the air suspension, we don't need to necessarily wait for a compressor to do the work. It's already in the tank. It will inflate really quickly, and once it inflates and the pressure starts to drop in the tank, well, then the compressor just kicks on in the background and just tops it up again. So it's a really cool system. Looks like quite a mission to install, but the guys are doing a good job, and it should be done by the end of the day.
Here we see the control system powering up as the car is switched on, and the pressure sitting around 10 psi. Each airbag has its own individual control. Air can be let in and out with a live readout of the pressure. The air comes directly from the 1 gallon tank, and when the tank pressure drops, you can hear the compressor kick in to top it up. It's a really cool system. We set it to about 30 psi for now, and we'll set it properly for our upcoming trip once the vehicle is fully loaded.
If we had to sum it up, advice to people would be, when you're planning a budget for a build like this, like when I started, I kind of thought I could get away with just, like, I don't need to upgrade my suspension, I don't need to, I thought, let me start with all the camping stuff, which is fun gadgets, but I don't really need to do the rest of it. I learned very quickly that it becomes something that you actually realize from a safety perspective, it's really important to, when you're budgeting stuff, just go get quotes for, suspension that can handle the weight of what you want to do, even if it's just getting estimating the weight and then getting quotes for that, and just plan things accordingly, because at some point you're probably going to have to do it anyway once you start adding all these things. So
rather sooner than later.
Yes,
You
exactly.
don't want to roll the vehicle or have an accident because you neglected a small, well, not a small part, safety critical part.
And sometimes it sneaks up on you. If you're fitting things one by one, you get used to the car handling badly.
That's it.
And then you don't even know it's handling badly because that's all you're used to.
Yeah.
Like I hopped in a friend's Hilux, which is just stock standard. And and when I realized how quickly I could brake, even though it was a much older vehicle, that's when I realized, flip, my brakes are actually not performing anywhere close to what they should.
Correct. It's very seldomly the things that you plan where the safety critical comes in. It's the kudu that jumps in front of you,
Oh, yeah.
or the taxi that drives in front of you in town. You don't even have to be in the bush where your brakes need to work, life and death. And same with suspension. If your suspension isn't right, if you swerve out with the right suspension, you just got a scare. If your suspension is right, you're on your roof.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that, and I think you touched on all the important ones in this last build.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel when I drive out here this afternoon, I feel like a lot of those important things are now ticked off that were just niggling at the back of my mind when I went on this last trip. And I was just, I could feel that sway. I could feel struggling to stop when I need to stop. It's ticked off the list now, and I'm very happy.
So your canopy is now nice and ready.
Everything's ready.
All the camping
Hopefully
stuff. So
everything handles all those rough roads, but it should be good. We worked really hard on it, so
exciting
very much
stuff.
looking forward to
We're looking forward to watching the video.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be really good. But thanks, George. It's always
Thank
good
you.
to be back here.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, we'll
Appreciate
definitely
it.
stay in touch.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay. First experience with the new brakes. Now I can't slam them on because there's a break-in period where I've got to kind of ease into it for the first 300 kilometers or so. But just driving around town, I'm sure I'll get a feel for how they work. Here's my first little red light coming up. Oh yeah, I can feel the difference. It doesn't feel as like squishy on the brake pedal, if that makes sense. I'm sure when there's once I've done the brake in and I can kind of slam on the brakes a bit, I'll notice it even more. But yeah, everything seems to be working. Super happy. 2 more days until our trip. I'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching.